All right, guys. Good morning. Welcome to the Symplicity webinar series. I'm Catherine Barron-Brinker. Just a few housekeeping items. We're just going to give another minute or so for our attendees to join. For those that are on, there is a chat area. Feel free to put questions in the Q&A. Doug is running the webinar, and so there will be some polls. But if you have questions, feel free to throw those into the Q&A section, and we'll answer those along the way. Just give another minute or so. We have a perfect day going here in Michigan. We're in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where our headquarters, and it is sunny and 75, which to me is the perfect weather day. And I tease Paul Nagel because he's my VP of Customer Experience, and he's in Austin, and it's like over 100. I don't know how he deals with it.
Lots of AC, lots of AC.
Randall, you're up in the Washington State area, right? So it's
Correct.
nice weather up there.
At the moment, nice and cool.
Mm-hmm. Hannah, are you in the Dallas area? Dallas, Texas? So you're in the furnace. But I will say that Paul laughs at us during the winter when he's mild temperatures and we're, sub-zero. That's the way it works. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and kick things off because this is a super exciting topic. My name is Catherine Barron-Brinker. I'm the president and CEO of Symplicity Communications, and we're a technology firm headquartered in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Again, just a little bit of housekeeping. There's a Q&A section. Feel free to put your questions in along the way. And then we'll do some polls and have some fun today. I'm super excited to introduce you guys to my favorite service provider, Third Wave Innovations. They're just an excellent resource because no matter what we do in Symplicity, what products we bring to our customers, it's always about how you're going to secure that. Super important to think about that with anything that you buy. So we love bringing Third Wave Innovations into our clients and help them answer that question because it's confusing how to navigate all of that. So go ahead and Carter, jump to our next slide. We're just going to kind of go through doing some introductions, and then I'll tell you a little bit about Symplicity, and then we will dive into Third Wave, who they are, and more importantly, the demo that they're going to show you. So I'm excited about that. So who is Symplicity? We are a supplier neutral technology company. So we help people procure technology. It's really we really focus on helping them understand why they're purchasing the technology and how it fits into their technology plan. But more importantly, we have a technology expense management program that helps them understand the invoices, the contracts, and the inventory that they're managing, because whether it's circuits, whether it's licenses or other cloud services, they tend to have this organic growth that can get out of hand, therefore get your budgets out of hand. So that's really our claim to fame, is no matter what we help clients design and implement, we help them manage the expenses of it and help them keep it in line. So we're really proud of what we do there and excited to help with that. Go ahead, Carter, to the next slide. I'm going to finish this up and then we're going to do intros and get into the third wave. So when you think about Symplicity, we think about technology expense management. We also think about those technology services like circuits and SD-WAN and voice and POTS lines. That's one area that we have. We also have customer experience and automation. Paul Nagel is our Vice President of Customer Experience. And there's a lot of companies that are looking at how can they better communicate with their clients and how can they automate some of those interactions your clients want automation. They want to self-serve with your brand. So we help implement technologies that help do that. And the purple area there, the managed IT and cybersecurity, we really lean on third wave for these services and really thinking about security in everything that we do in other areas of our company. So that's where we get to today. So let's do some quick introductions. I'm going to introduce you to my team, which is Lorraine Osborne. She is a technology advisor here on the team in Grand Rapids. We've got Doug Seitz, who is our marketing manager, and he's our superhero of webinars. So thank you so much, Doug, for all the work that you've done. And Paul Nagel, he is our Vice President of Customer Experience. Super glad to have him on the call and helping us today. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the Third Wave team so they can do some introductions and then take it on to the webinar.
Awesome. So Randall, if you want to start it off for us.
Sure. Randall Acey. I am CEO, co-founder of Third Wave Innovations. I've been in the technology career field for about 25 plus years. Heavy experience in government and retail, both on the infrastructure side and the security side. Big part of the development of our product. I'm excited to talk to people about observability today, and I look forward to Carter showing you our demo.
And yeah, hi everybody. My name is Carter McElvain. I'm a senior security engineer here at Third Wave. I lead up our offensive security services. So I'm the hacker of the group. I like to break into things, me and my team. I'd love to do that, but also showing off our product and how it can help secure your network.
Very cool.
So Randall?
Yeah. So apologize, Carter. So yeah, Third Wave, it's founded on 20 years plus of I would say experience in both the automation of infrastructure as well as security. And so if you think about where we kind of started out, very, very heavy on the security side because of our insight, because of what we're able to see, because of what we do. In addition, we have a very strong NOC practice that kind of, I would say, dovetails into our security practice. But we've been around for coming up almost 10 years. We've grown a lot over the last 10 years. We've adapted on cloud native platforms, especially through the pandemic as people have shifted. So really excited to talk to you guys about the company today. We are based out of Dallas, Texas. We are a global company. And so Carter will walk you through what we have and how we do what we do. Thank you. High level basic concepts of observability. So I won't go too deep into this because this is a subject that, quite honestly, a lot of engineers can spend weeks talking about. But from a business side and from a business aspect, I think there's a couple of points that when you hear this term, because you're going to see it kind of tossed into different areas. You hear it in commercials, you hear it kind of like buzzwords, but observability itself is a very specific term. And what that term really means is your ability to see and observe what's going on in your infrastructure and in your security environment, understand it, and have some kind of predetermined concepts of what to do with it. And so when you think about it from a business aspect, especially from my experience, historically, I've ran some large e-commerce businesses. There are things that occur that, bumps in the night that can throw your operations out of whack. And historically, you can walk into a NOC or a SOC and you'll see a sea of people sitting there with a run book or playbook that says, if this happens, do this or call this person. The concept of observability is that you're collecting data from those points of interest, whether it's your switch environment, whether it's your router environment, your load balancing environment, on and on and on and on. And you're able to correlate those things to make better decisions faster. And so from a business aspect, you're looking at the concepts of dark NOCs, dark SOCs, where your level 1, your level 2 engineers are really almost automated. Because I think at the end of the day, if you're really focusing on your operations, the things that matter is your MTTR, or your mean time to recovery. The faster that you can recover from an event and solve those issues, the more efficient you are and the better your business runs. And so when you think about the concept of observability, what I'll ask you, Carter, if you go to the next slide, there's a couple of key points. And so for us, C4 is a cloud native product that ties into every aspect of your infrastructure. So historically, you would have infrastructure monitoring You might have application monitoring. Those might be different tools, different groups. What we do is we really kind of bring that all together. And we do that through tagging information. And so not only do you know that a log is coming from a switch or router, you know what part of the organization that's on, you know what applications are tied to that switch. There's a whole lot of telemetry that we're able to tag and put into that packet before anything ever happens. And so when you start correlating all that data, you can start getting the mean. You start figuring out how there's deviance, and that type of information drives your capabilities to make smarter decisions faster. And what that then allows you to do is to make automated decisions. And so a good example, we used to bind and unbind servers all the time at the e-commerce business. And for whatever reason, could be DNS failing, could be memory usage is overutilized. There's a lot of different reasons why things can fail, but it may only take a reboot. It may take clearing cache. There's a whole slew of activities that can occur. And if you can remove the need to call someone, open a ticket, and then call more people, figure out which server went down, I mean, that whole timeline just expands. And so the capabilities that we have today and the abilities to automate a lot of those functions and those features are amazing. One of the other really, really cool things that we do through observability, it's the idea that when there is a device goes out, every adjacent device is then logged. And so when you have a ticket, your first level ticket is opened, whether it's for security or for the NOC, you have so much more information. They call them permalinks. And what that allows you to do is that allows your level 3 person to look at what's going on and understand chronologically what's happened from a logging aspect before they've even, opened a ticket from a client. So the idea with observability, and this is what Carter's going to kind of touch on as he goes through his demo, is that you're a lot more proactive in managing and taking care of your environment versus being reactive. Because a reactive state, number one, it's not, you can't automate reactive responses, and two, it's not healthy in your environment. So with that, I will pause because I could probably go in pretty deep on all of this, but I want to glean the overall perspective. But Carter, I will turn it over to you for the demo.
Awesome. Thank you, Randy. Let me share the other screen here.
While they're switching over to that, we did just post a poll on the, so if you look at the very bottom of the screen, right next to the Q&A, if you click on the poll button, there's a poll there that you can answer these poll questions as we're going along.
Awesome. Okay, so, whenever we, give a demo and show people kind of our platform and to kind of touch on the points that Randall was talking about, how we can see into your environment. Me and my team being on the offensive side, I love to show a real world example of how this product works and how it can help you protect your own environment. And so with that, me and my team, we develop malware a lot. So in this example or in this demo, I'm going to kind of show you with a couple of virtual machines what it would look like for our analysts at Third Wave using our product to protect an environment. And so the dashboard here, I really just want to hit on a few things for everyone. And the biggest thing out of this presentation today is with any sort of product, with any sort of managed solution like this, we want to get as much data as possible. So whether we're collecting that from your endpoints, from your network devices, your switches, routers, firewalls, or from the cloud, we want to ingest as much data as possible to give our analysts that single pane of glass so they can make accurate and informed decisions based on the events they're seeing. And so to do that, to help with that, obviously, like I said, we want to ingest as much data as we can from every single point on the network, as well as the cloud. But what we do is we enhance that data to ensure that the latest threats and the latest techniques are being detected within your environment. And so to do that, we have quite a few integrations. So we ingest a lot of threat intelligence feeds, both paid and unpaid, and as well as have our own sensors out there to pick up the latest threats. In combination with that, my team and we regularly try to bypass our own products and get around our logging and see how we can make our own detections better. And in that, we've got a very extensive lab of, a fully featured Active Directory environment tied into multiple different firewalls, as well as a cloud, multiple cloud providers. And, I try to get around it as much as we can so that we can help our SOC, create new detections. And so really what you're seeing here is that single pane of glass that our analysts would see on a day-to-day basis. And if you take a look at it a little bit closer, you can see we've got our high-level events, what's happening across the networks that we monitor currently, as well as some threat intelligence feeds. So the bottom left there, you can see the most common malware signatures that we're identifying on networks. So whether that be Quackbot or Redline, obviously the top biggest two right now that we're seeing in our environments, we can kind of have an insight as to who's targeting our clientele. And then additionally, with our obviously ingesting everything from the cloud that we possibly can, just kind of getting an overview of what we're ingesting from the cloud. And so the middle or bottom middle there, saying the cloud instance logged counts. So what types of cloud providers are we logging? Obviously EC2 being AWS, and the virtual machines there is Azure. So, in anything we're doing, we want to ingest as much logs or as many logs as we can from every part of your environment. And kind of going back, the C4 product is not just a security product, right? So this is kind of what Randall was touching on. It's an ops, SIM, as well as SOC and EDR, or rather MDR platform. So whether you want to just monitor and have a fully managed NOC or supplement what you're currently doing, absolutely, C4 can do that. We can monitor your network equipment, applications, anything like that. But on the flip side as well, we can do security, and that really ties in together with our SOC offering in the MDR service, or the managed defense and response. So the whole product is a single agent. So whether that's your routers, switches, Linux, Mac, Windows, whatever it might be, again, any other cloud providers, we can tie directly into that and those platforms to gain visibility into any sort of events that may be happening. And so kind of off of this, our team, our SOC is regularly performing threat hunts across all of our customers' environments. So a threat hunt is, our team members trying to go in and identify threats that may have been missed by our current detections across our clientele. And so to kind of highlight that, I'm going to switch over my screen here and kind of give you an example of something that our offensive services would provide during kind of like a penetration test. And so let me flip over to that. Okay, so in this example, and kind of what we really want to show is this is a virtual machine that is in our demo environment that has C4 installed on it. And typically, what we're currently seeing in the threat landscape is phishing is going to be your number one way the bad guys get in. That's been historically the number one way for quite a long time. However, they've definitely shifted on how they're doing that and how they're gaining access to systems. So a very common method used today is using very odd file formats. So whether that's a zip file, ISO files, or LNK, like a shortcut file, those are really kind of being used today by the latest threat actors to gain access to environments. And so what we have here, what's on screen, those three different files are in-house developed malware from our intrusion team. So the team that I lead up, we make this malware. We have a very extensive lab where we try to test it against all of the major EDR providers as well as AV providers, and see how it does. In this example, only a couple, including C4, caught these initial access payloads that were sent. And so what I really want to show is kind of how it would look to the end user, and then how it would look to our analysts on the back end. So again, in this example, this is, let's say, a normal user's workstation. they downloaded a malicious attachment, or rather went to a link that had a malicious attachment, and then they're opening it on their system. And so for this first one, it's an ISO file, so a disk image. Within it, there is a malicious HTA file. And when they open that, C4 is going to pick up on it and obviously prevent that. The next example is just simply an LNK file that is malicious and calls out to a command and control server run by us to download that next stage payload. So again, when we open that, as the user's going to see that was blocked and why it was blocked. And then finally, the most complex that we have so far is a zip file within an ISO file that has an LNK file in it. So a very long chain of events that bypasses basically every EDR out there currently, just because there's so many layers to it. So when we open the image file and then open the zip file and then open the shortcut, it gets blocked again. And so, that's great that it blocks it, right? But there's always ways around even the latest types of EDR and these kind of services. So what I want to show now is kind of on the back end, what our analysts would see through this one pane of glass that we have, and how they would take an action on it. So if we flew back over there, this is our alerting section for our analysts on what they would see. And so in this example, obviously C4, the MDR portion, caught it, prevented it, and then alerted our team. From here, one of our analysts would see this and very clearly be able to identify exactly what happened in the environment. And if we get over to a tab here, we can see they have the full process command line of what was run on the actual system. So this gives us really good data on maybe who initially did this, what threat actor was doing this based on the latest threat intelligence data that we have. Oops. Based on the latest threat intelligence data that we have. But then again, also, it shows where it was run from and how it was actually executed on the system. And so kind of if we go back, again, at a high level, we want to ensure that, great, it blocked it, the threat was prevented, but now it's our job to identify how did that happen, right? And where did it come from? And how can we prevent this from even getting to this stage in the future? And so this is really where our product shines, is that we can tie into, again, any sort of endpoints. So your client PC systems, your servers, whether they're Linux, Mac, Windows, whatever it may be, tying into your routers, switches, firewalls, and then all of your cloud providers that you may be using. And we can take all of this and tag it appropriately so that our analysts, with whatever alert they get, they can take an informed action on the event. And so from here, for example, what an analyst might do is pivot over to the raw data and say, hey, you know what? I know the system, or rather the user that executed this was, as an example, Robert Wilson. And so what they can then do is come in here and say, hey, show me all of the logs from, let's say, across their cloud provider platform that is related to Robert Wilson. They can do this along with any sort of network and firewall data. So from that endpoint, where did it go? What did it reach out to? And that sort of thing, to kind of tie it all together. And so really at the core of all of this, again, it's those 3 points of perspective, right, that we want to give our analysts and our team to make informed decisions. That's the endpoints, the network, as well as cloud. And while this is obviously a very security-centric example on this, on the ops as well as SIM side, it's the exact same thing. So if a router switch, something happens on the IT ops side, or an application goes down, we're still ingesting the same information. So we can still make those same informed decisions on what happened and what can we do to remediate it immediately. And so that whole example, again, I hope that was very clear on, what our analysts see on a day-to-day, how we ingest the data, and how they can take appropriate actions on it. And so moving on from this, you switch back over to the slide deck here. So again, the observability piece, ingesting all of the data that we can into environments, that improves quite a few things. However, the top things are absolutely threat detection and instant response. Is there a threat on the network based on the event data that we have, and how can we easily perform incident response? And so within our platform, our analysts can immediately do that. They can immediately take actions, as well as use the automation we have in place to accurately quarantine and isolate threats. And then again, vulnerability management. So not even preventing threats, or rather reacting to threats. This is actual prevention, right? If we know that, hey, you've got 10 Cisco routers that are running, 1.0 versus the latest 8. Whatever from Cisco, we can easily see that and say, hey, this is a vulnerability, or these are the vulnerabilities currently in your network. And then finally, compliance. Based on what kind of data is moving across the network, and we're going to kind of talk about that here in a second, but then also SLAs with clients and ensuring uptimes. So no matter what it is, and Randall, maybe you want to hit on a few points as well for the observability piece and kind of how we can tie this all back in. But with anything, again, we want to ingest as much data as possible. So no matter if we're managing or supplementing a NOC or a SOC, we can make informed decisions based on what we're seeing.
Hey, Carter, I'll throw a few layers on your cake. The beauty of, there's a lot of buzzwords, and you use terms like data pool or data lake, or in some cases data ponds. Whatever the size of that data is, and whatever the size of your organization is, the ability to have useful data. So as you bring it all in and we do our tagging, like Carter mentioned, the ability to do things like capacity management. I mean, you now have such visibility in your infrastructure and your security posture that you've never had before. It takes you to the next level. When we utilize machine learning to great extents, and the way that we're able to do that is through contextual understanding of the information. So think about across the board, whether or not you're trying to figure out if your capacity on your telecom circuits is being utilized, or is it accurate. If you're looking at choke points at your load balancer, whatever layer of your infrastructure, you now have historical data that allows you to do some statistical analysis. And that really is powerful. In addition to having the ability to have full insight and visibility into your environment, we also have the ability to do things like synthetic monitoring, which in the case of retail, that's a huge opportunity, because you can run checkout services, you can run pharmacy services, and if those services fail, there's an issue, and then you can digest that and go through the process. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what observability does is just gives you the more offensive, and I would say more predictive capabilities, as well as just visibility into what's truly in your environment. Go ahead, Carter.
Sure. Yeah, so thank you for that, Randall. So now we kind of want to move into, definitely a hot topic, and a little bit different from kind of the demo, obviously. So ChatGPT, everyone uses it right now. Everyone seemingly loves it. Obviously, there's definitely a few flaws with it. And so we get asked all the time from the security side, should my business be using ChatGPT? Should my employees be allowed access to it? Should we block it? There are definitely a lot of hysteria kind of around the product, and not just ChatGPT, but the new learning language models that are coming out that are utilizing this kind of chat-based interactions. And so, I thought it'd be kind of fun to kind of hit on a few things, obviously concerns, but also legitimate use cases that your organization may want to take advantage of. So concerns of ChatGPT, as well as any sort of LLM like that you are providing information to get a response from. Obviously, data leaks, right? If employees are posting very sensitive code or legal compliance-based data into these platforms, OpenAI, who makes ChatGPT, is learning based off of what is put into the platform. So this is very much, and kind of what it reminds me about is a long time ago when GitHub in these first kind of code-based repositories were out there on the internet. a big concern was my developers and my organization putting the code up on GitHub, right? Putting sensitive proprietary code up on GitHub. It's very similar to ChatGPT today, except now it's for the masses. It's not just for the development staff. And so obviously, putting in sensitive information is definitely a huge concern. But also
Carter,
social engineering. Sure.
I know that some of the research that I've done has suggested that about 20% of organizations, employees are using generative AI, and it's a big percentage, over 40%, just in the last 3 months. So that trend is going to continue. And so I feel like as we talk about, in layman's term, observability really moves us from the reactive to the proactive of area. And this using chat GPT and just putting information out there really can cause some major exposure. And with that, we've been seeing organizations maybe not do as much security as they need to do until that event happens, and then all of a sudden they start calculating how much is it costing us to be down for
Right.
a day, 2 days, 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden you get the funding you need in the security area. So I feel
Absolutely.
like this chat GPT or generative AI area is a bigger issue in the security area, because it's almost like shadow IT of people just going out and doing their own thing because they can't wait for IT to solve something and they don't understand the security risks.
Absolutely.
Carter, I may jump in real quick if you don't mind, because I agree with Catherine a lot. I think ultimately what organizations have to do, Catherine, are two things. Number one, from board level down, they need to sit there and look each other in the eye and say, what does chat GPT mean? What is generative API? What is advanced, any advanced technology of any sort?
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to us? And then how do we
Yeah.
utilize it, right? And so that gets into informational awareness. So you start talking about security awareness within the organization, helping people understand what's right, what's wrong. But then in addition, traditional proxy server technologies have the corporate policies and how you utilize technology, and then have the right points of enforcement to ensure that those policies are adhered to. I think is a good first step.
Yeah, I think that's the challenge, is it's sometimes hard for organizations to actually get to a point where they're writing a policy and then pushing it out to people and then enforcing it. I mean, that's what the basis for shadow IT is that they can't control that. So I think that, this is not chat GPT, and what's happening in that is not there's going to be many more of those in the future. So I almost feel like a company has to take a technology posture and say, here's how we want to do it. And we know that automation is clear, that you need to get yourself in a position and have your tools be automated so you're not manually trying to assess this information. You need that automation to say, do this, or here's the information, so you can make better decisions. But I think that that's the big struggle between a security department at a company and how that does get up to the board. And so I think what I'm seeing is, I think clients are struggling with that a little bit until
Absolutely.
they have a issue, no matter what issue that is, large, small, whatever. But once you have an issue, then all of a sudden, all the C-levels are listening.
When you
So
like
I
it,
think,
go ahead.
yeah, no. I was just going to say, I think you almost need that, you almost need that issue to help you, with your cause, if you're, leading, a security area.
Definitely. I'm sorry for cutting you off on that.
No.
I agree. I also liken it, to be honest, I agree with what you said, and I liken it to when Facebook first came about, right? When social media just started hitting organizations, whether your, Active Directory was integrated to your, authentication to get out to the internet or not, trying to figure out how marketing groups could have access to Facebook so they could utilize the tools, and at the same time not having every employee in a giant corporation, sitting at Facebook all day long. So I liken this a little bit to the advancement of social media, in that you need to understand how to use it, but you also need to understand what comes with that and the security implications.
I
And this
also
line,
feel like,
sorry, go ahead, Catherine.
I was just going to say, I also feel like, in my observations of watching customers that have the responsibility of security, um, you really have to bring in an outside source. So if you do have a security team, I think that it's so hard to stay in front of everything that's happening. You really have to have an outside, almost like the A team, the Olympians that come in, because this is what they train for every day, to figure out how to navigate what's happening, not just watching what's coming down, but also what is best practices and how to execute those best practices. And sometimes when you have that outside source that you can really help you navigate that really does make a difference. And I know that from my clients that I've brought Third Wave in, it really, I've seen it happen where they feel like they've got this extension of their team, this superpower that kind of comes in. So yeah, I mean, it's more of a statement than a question, but it's very, very difficult to navigate security inside a company, making those decisions and deploying the products to stay in front of all that without using some outside resources.
I agree 100%.
And this line of discussion that you guys have been bringing up leads into our next poll question that is up. Just what are your biggest security concerns that are out there? So anybody that wants to answer that poll question, it is up and ready to go.
Go ahead, Carter. I'll let you run with it.
Yeah, I mean, biggest concern right now, ransomware, right? I mean, that's absolutely will continue to be the number one threat to organizations. And with ransomware, anything, the whole chain of events that happens, not just the extortion or rather the ransom piece, but the data exfiltration, right? Just because they're ransoming your environment, they already have your data. And that's obviously a huge issue to organizations. And so what we've been seeing really is kind of the shift from, oh, we have to pay money to, oh, hey, we have to pay money to fines because our data was stolen, as well as trying to get our data back. And so it's kind of a, you got to pay twice to get back in order. So definitely ransomware from my perspective.
That's a gift that keeps on giving, because now your reputation is
right.
challenged. And so building that back up and having that crisis from acknowledging the situation, it's painful.
And it's almost unfair, to be honest. It's sad. We've had quite a few companies, we pick up quite a few clients because of ransomware issues. But what I've noticed is, in the advancement of technology and advancement of ransomware, there are companies that have made the investment. They've purchased the best EDR tools Gartner has to offer. They've got great SIM tools, but what they don't have is they don't have the people that know how that all comes together. And it's really sad to see that. There's technologies that sit on endpoint devices and do logging, do monitoring, but unfortunately, all that logging and all that monitoring is done locally. So what happens when you have a ransomware event? Everything gets encrypted. So if you want to do any kind of forensics analysis, how do you do forensic analysis on encrypted logging? So having a good security partner that can help you understand, even though some of these are, traditionally best of breed products, they're not in the environment that we're in today. They don't work. And I'm very straightforward about that, because we're seeing it over and over and over again. You have to manage your environment. There is no silver bullet. You can't just buy a product and let it sit. You need people that understand what they're doing, and that's what we bring to the table.
Okay.
Awesome.
So kind of moving on to these other two, unless anyone, Catherine, if you have anything else you want to add.
Nope, I'll keep quiet.
No, you're good. You're good. I love the conversation. So, again, another concern, and this is kind of an interesting one. So social engineering, right? Obviously, we all know what that is. Attackers using that to gain access to environments, convincing employees to download something, click on something, divulge information. These language models like ChatGPT can quickly create a whole persona for someone to use. And a good point on this is it's very good at English as well. So traditionally, we've told people to, hey, look for misspellings, look for weird grammar. However, now with these kind of platforms, an attacker can say, create a great phishing email that is targeted at a financial organization with less than 100 employees, and they work with X, Y, and Z company. And it can instantly create a very good phishing email or chat that the attacker can use. And so I will say too, on our team, on our offensive services team, we've used this. We've created personas within ChatGPT. Obviously tweak them before deploying, but they work because it's very good at creating that kind of stuff. And then finally, this is something very interesting, is a lot of people kind of are starting to realize is simply the misinformation of some of these models. And I start to see this a lot in kind of the technical security space, but they can create answers that seem very convincing and they're very confident in the answer, but it's completely inaccurate. So I saw one the other day that it wasn't security or tech related, but it was about like a U.S. history question. And the ChatGPT had a very thorough answer, but it was completely wrong. The event never happened. And so things like that, you're right. If you're not checking to ensure that the information coming out of this, generative AI platform is accurate, it's not useful at all. So those are some of the concerns. So moving on to some of the valid use cases that we've seen and that I think are definitely going to be in the future of the security as well as IT ops space. Security education and training. This is, I think, the next big thing in this space is going to be a very much like a chat bot that you can train your employees to identify security events before they click on them or they download them or they perform a certain action or divulge information. We all know about security awareness programs. We all know about the training people have to sit through. But these models that can very accurately and coherently talk to people or communicate are going to be great in that space. And then threat intelligence. We use this today at Third Wave. Having these platforms to ingest threat intelligence reports and then summarize what was said or what has happened is extremely useful. And it's one of those automation pieces that we've really seen paid off just from a time perspective. So instead of our analysts going out and collecting all of this data and creating detections and reviewing things, we can very clearly get a report on, hey, these are the top things we should look at. Here's what's out there. Here's what's mentioned most frequently, and that sort of thing. And then finally, automated vulnerability management. And I say that kind of half jokingly because vulnerability management is definitely a process to fully, automate. But these types of language models or rather generative AI models can very quickly scan code bases for vulnerabilities. So if you think like static code and analysis tools, kind of right up that alley. However, it's really looking at the actual logic of the code instead. And so definitely a lot of use cases coming out of these generative AI models, but these are just a few that we've seen good, done in practice, as well as kind of what we're seeing in the future. And so finally, again, and Randall, you might want to touch on some of this, but for any size organization, observability is going to be key, right? Whether you're talking security or applications or just general IT ops, ensuring you're getting all of the relevant information and storing it in a place that you can access it and make sense of it is going to be key. And then again, we harp on this so much, but it is so key. Ensuring you're collecting and storing those three different points of perspective, right? The endpoints, the network, and then the cloud, any sort of those points of collection. So finally, we highly recommend partnering with a managed service provider, kind of what Catherine and Randall were talking about, to simply make your teams more efficient. So whether that is, a full service, hey, we're your security team, or supplementing what you have now. Simply kind of what Catherine, I like that one term, bringing in the A team to kind of give that review, right, and ensuring things are done correctly for the environment. And simply an outside perspective definitely helps. And I mean, we see this every single day. Every single day we get questions from our clients as well as others just saying, hey, here's my problem. What would you do? What are some options? And that sort of thing. So, Randall, I don't know if you want to touch on any of those points.
Yeah, I just make a couple of quick comments. Thank you, Carter. The efficient and effectiveness in the management of your data in any organization, whatever the size, is critical, right? And so when you consider the idea of having a dark SOC, a dark NOC, there's a concept of a JSOC. And so those two what I'd say functions in your organization utilize a lot of the same data, utilize a lot of the same technology. And so having a correlated system that allows you to respond accurately just makes both your security and your operations more effective. There is no difference between the two nowadays. A lot of organizations are siloed, but in a very inefficient manner. And then just to Carter's point, when you partner with someone, whether it's us or someone else, make sure that you're partnering with someone that has a deep bench of experience. You know, we've got so many experienced engineers that have been doing DevOps long before DevOps was even a thing. You look at the companies that myself and a lot of the others in our organization have worked for, our background with the Department of Defense, that matters. That gives us perspective. We know how to solve these problems. They're not buzzwords to us. These are everyday activities. And so really put your MSP or MSSP to the test. Make sure they're just not a VAR reseller that's throwing you technology every day. They understand how it's supposed to work, and they understand how holistically it all ties together. So thank you, Carter. I appreciate that. And thank you, Catherine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to comment, one of the things, Randall, that I've heard you say to our clients is when your vendor, security vendor, MSP, when they charge you based on break fix model, guess what's going to happen? They want things to break fix so that they can fix it, because that's how they're incentivized. And I love the third wave model where their model is to get you into a proactive state so that your environment can run and they're not incentivized when something breaks. So I love the concept of, think about how, always say follow the money, right? Sherry McGuire. Figure out how you're paying your vendors and see if that is the right model to inspire proactivity versus reactivity. Because to me, in layman's terms, observability is about moving from reactive to proactive. And in order to get efficiencies, you have to have proactivity. We know that the average dwell time, I think the last time I saw it was 99 days. So they talk, earlier about, if you get to a point where ransomware is affected, they've already got your data. That is a reactive state. So you need to work with a partner that is focused on getting you to that proactive state. So I love the fact that we can bring companies in. It doesn't cost you anything to have a consultation and really understand where are you and how do you get to the state that you want to be, because there's no destination in security. It's a constant evolution of a journey. And so you've got to work with people who get that. And I love the people at Third Wave. They have that same mindset of how can we help you achieve your initiative. So I really appreciate Carter and Randall, Hannah and Jim for being on the call today and kind of sharing some of the wisdom that they see out there. We always try to focus on helping our clients get to that more efficient state. So I appreciate the time that you guys spent on the call today. And so thanks team, thanks Symplicity for putting the webinar together. And we hope that you guys have a great day.
Thank you, Catherine. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
Much.
Take care. Bye. See you next time.
Thank you.